My parents stole my money for a luxury cruise while I lay bedridden after a spinal injury, so I cut them off, and what I did next shattered their image, exposed their fraud, and left my scheming brother and control-freak father drowning in debt while I built a new life with people who actually showed up. You ever see those offshore oil rig documentaries where guys are hanging off steel platforms 100 feet above the ocean? That's my life. My name's Adam. I'm 34 years old, based out of Lafayette, Louisiana, though I spend more time floating in the Gulf than I do on land. It's a rough gig. For weeks on, 2 weeks off. You miss birthdays, holidays, funerals. One time I missed my own grandfather's funeral because we got delayed by a tropical storm. No one cared. Or noticed. My younger brother Jared? He works in tech. Mostly talks about seed funding and early-stage disruption. I don't think he's held the same job for more than a year, but our parents treat him like he invented the internet. At Thanksgiving, they practically give him a standing ovation for showing up. Me? I brought a bourbon-glazed ham, and no one even asked how I was doing. It's been like that my whole life. Jared gets arrested for shoplifting a PlayStation in high school. He's just finding himself. I get a B in calculus. Adam, you really need to take things more seriously. He gets a $4,000 bonus from some startup he quit 6 months later. Dad's toasting him like he won the lottery. I cleared my first 6 figures 5 years ago, and no one even blinked. But here's the kicker. They don't know how much I actually do for them. Last year, when Mom called crying because the water heater finally gave out, I wired her $2,000 that night. Told her it came from a work bonus. It didn't. I just moved my vacation funds. Same when the roof leaked. And the fridge. And when Dad's truck needed a new transmission. Jared? He never pays them back. Hell, half the time, I'm the one covering his overdrafts. They don't know that either. I started a shared, emergency family fund a couple years back. Sounded smart at the time, easier to help without making it obvious. I set up the account, automated deposits from my rig paycheck, and added Mom and Jared to the account. Told them it was for any crisis. Rainy day money, I said. They both smiled like it was sweet. I should have seen it as the trap door it turned out to be. They never asked where the money came from. Never wondered why the balance kept growing. Just started dipping into it more and more. At first, it was little stuff. Dentist copay, new tires, some school loans Jared forgot to finish. But when I checked the statements after a long shift offshore, I started seeing Uber Eats charges and random airline tickets. Jared had flown to Austin for a networking retreat. He didn't even tell me. I didn't say anything. Just added more money. Because that's what I do. I work 80-hour weeks in sweltering heat, eating reheated casseroles in my steel bunk and praying the chopper back to shore doesn't get canceled, all while they sip lattes and call me stoic. I guess I thought someday they'd notice. Someday they'd say, "We're proud of you, Adam." That day never came. But I kept helping. Quietly. Invisibly. Until everything fell apart. We were on day 21 of a brutal rotation, heat index pushing 110, everyone running on fumes and bad coffee. I was supervising a routine inspection on the upper deck when it happened. A snapped safety line, a slippery platform, one bad step. That's all it took. I remember the moment my boot slid off the grating. The second of pure weightlessness before gravity took over. I hit the deck hard. Pain exploded through my back and shot down both legs. I couldn't move. The medics got to me fast. Rig guys know how to respond. We've all seen worse. A few hours later, I was airlifted to a hospital in Houston. The doctor barely looked up from the MRI when he said it. Stable spinal fracture. You're lucky. Could have been a severed cord. But you're going to need time. Months. Maybe more. I was half conscious when they wheeled me to recovery. Morphine made everything fuzzy. But even in that fog, I remember reaching for my phone and calling Mom. "Hey," I said, my voice tight. "I had a fall on the rig. I'm in the hospital. I need a little help. Just for a bit." She didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't even sound worried. "Oh, sweetie, I wish we could come, but your dad's got that dentist appointment on Thursday, and we're trying to catch up on yard work before the weather shifts." I didn't know what to say. I just listened to her ramble about the neighbor's dog and how the hydrangeas were dying. Then I called Jared. He picked up on the second ring. "Dude," he said, "that sucks. But hey, silver lining, right? At least you'll get to chill for a while. I could use a break like that. Maybe I'll crash at your place for a bit since you'll just be lying around." "I wasn't asking you to move in," I said, trying not to sound bitter. "I was hoping you'd stop by. Help out for a bit." "Oh," he said. "Yeah, I'll see what I can do." He never came. You know who did? Greg, one of the guys from the rig I trained 2 years ago. He drove 4 hours with a stack of gas station sandwiches and a folding chair so he could sit by my bed. And Marcy, our old site medic, she showed up with a bag full of back braces and mobility tools before I was even discharged. When I got back home, they were the ones who helped me get up the stairs, who brought groceries and helped change dressings, who figured out my shower situation and cleaned the gunk out of the fridge I'd forgotten about before the fall. My family? I didn't hear from them again for almost a week. When I did, it was just a group text Jared sent about some new crypto app. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I finally let myself ask the question I'd been burying for years. What exactly do they see when they look at me? Because right then, it felt like I was nothing but a paycheck and steel-toed boots. I was a week out from spinal surgery when I got the call from my cousin Tasha. She's one of the few relatives who never asked for anything, just called to check in now and then. Sweet, kind of scatterbrained, always talked too fast. I was lying on the couch with an ice pack under my lower back when my phone buzzed. "Hey, just wanted to see how you're feeling," she said, chipper. "I talked to Aunt Cindy, and tell your mom thanks again for the cruise invite. That was such a surprise." I blinked. "Cruise? Yeah, the Mediterranean one, 10 days, all-inclusive, leaving next week? Your brother said it was a gift from the family fund you set up. Said you insisted they take it. Super generous of you." My stomach turned. "Tasha," I said slowly, "what day did they book it?" I think Jared said the 12th. Why? That was the exact date of my surgery. She kept talking, oblivious. I barely heard the rest. My ears were ringing. I hung up politely, then sat there in silence, staring at the wall like I was trying to punch a hole through it with my eyes. They had used the emergency fund. My emergency fund. While I was laid up, unable to drive, struggling to get in and out of bed, they had booked a luxury cruise with my money. And they didn't even tell me. Not one word. I pulled up the account app. Sure enough, over $9,400 gone. Multiple withdrawals spaced over 2 weeks. One labeled Princess Med, deposit. Another, flight bundle. Then spa upgrade. They planned the whole thing in silence. I closed the app and sat there, numb. Not angry. Not even sad. Just clear. Like a switch had flipped. They didn't see me as a son. Or a brother. Or a human being with pain and needs. They saw me as a wallet with a pulse. A backup plan. A resource. And now that I was down, they had no use for me except what I could still offer financially. I opened my laptop, drained the emergency account, and transferred every last cent into a new private one. Then I changed the login info, locked it down, and called the bank to remove all other users. Next, I contacted a security company. "Yeah," I said to the tech on the phone, "I want full access cameras, smart locks, and biometric entry for the side and back doors. No keypads." He offered me a package. I bought the best one. Same-day installation. That night, I turned off all notifications from my family and started packing a small overnight bag. Greg would be driving me to the hospital in the morning. Marcy had already promised to stay a few days after surgery, just in case. Not once did I consider asking my parents or Jared for help. As I zipped up the duffel, I heard my phone buzz from across the room. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. They were probably sending selfies from the cruise terminal, drinks in hand. Meanwhile, I was preparing to go under the knife alone. And you know what? I was fine with that. Because I'd finally stopped pretending they'd ever care. I woke up in recovery groggy and sore, floating in that post-anesthesia haze where everything feels like it's happening underwater. My spine felt like it had been welded shut, tight, raw, and humming with pain. But I was alive. The surgery was a success. Marcy was there when I opened my eyes, holding a bottle of water and tapping on her tablet like she ran the whole damn hospital. "You're out," she said, smiling. Didn't even drool. I gave a weak thumbs up and croaked. "How bad is it?" 5-inch incision. Couple screws. Nothing you can't handle. She stayed the night in the chair beside my bed. Meanwhile, my phone, tucked in my bag at the foot of the bed, was lighting up like a Vegas slot machine. By the time I was discharged 2 days later, I had 64 unread messages and 12 voicemails. Most of them were from my family. "Mom, Adam, what's going on with the account? Jared can't access anything. Dad, we had an agreement. Call me. Jared, dude, you emptied the fund? What the actual hell? Jared again. Where's the money? I need it. Like now. Jared again. You're being paranoid. It's a cruise, not a crime." I didn't respond. I didn't even open the texts. I just forwarded them all to a new folder labeled Evidence. Greg met me at the hospital exit in his old pickup and helped me climb in like I was made of glass. As we pulled into my driveway, I spotted something odd. The side gate was open. It had been locked before I left. My gut sank. Greg cut the engine. "You want me to check?" I nodded. We stepped inside slowly. The living room looked untouched, until I saw the hallway closet wide open, boxes pulled out, papers scattered across the floor. The guest room had drawers yanked open. My desk had been rummaged through. The only thing they hadn't done was break anything. I hobbled to the living room couch, pulled out my phone, and opened the security app. The footage was already uploading to the cloud. There they were, my father and Jared, walking through the side door like they owned the place, keys in hand. Jared headed straight to the desk. Dad opened the closet, muttering about where the hell he keeps it. At one point, Jared walked into my bedroom and leaned over the nightstand, shaking his head. He must have moved it. Probably hiding the cash, he said. Then came the worst part. My father walked into the hallway and yelled, loud and clear, "This is what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you, son. Don't say we didn't try." I saved the clip, backed it up, and sent it to my lawyer friend in Baton Rouge with the subject line, "Just in case." That night, I changed every lock. Not that it mattered. The new system was fingerprint only now. The next morning, I sent a text to the family group chat, the same one they'd flooded during their trip. "If you ever enter my home again without permission, I'll press charges. I have the footage. Don't test me." Jared replied in under 30 seconds. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I sent one last message. "You already did." Then I hit mute on the thread and closed the app. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt like I had finally taken something back. My space, my power, and maybe, just maybe, my damn dignity. They didn't take the warning seriously. I could tell from the smug tone in Jared's last text. The kind that assumed, no matter how mad I got, I'd eventually fold. Instead, they doubled down. 3 days after I kicked them out, digitally and physically, a sheriff's deputy showed up at my door. "You Adam Wallace?" "Yeah. You've been accused of theft. Families claiming you drained a joint account and withheld funds." I almost laughed. Instead, I opened the door wider. "You want coffee? Or just the receipts?" He blinked, caught off guard. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at the kitchen table with him, sliding a neatly organized binder across the surface, complete with account statements, transfer records, and highlighted sections showing the fund was created with my income only. "No one else deposited a dime," I said. "Not once. And I've got screenshots of the withdrawal requests. Jared's emergencies include bottle service and first-class upgrades." The deputy nodded, flipping through the pages. He looked tired, the way people get when they've seen this kind of thing too often. "Mind if I take copies of this?" "Please do." He took the binder, stood up, and said, "If I were you, I'd consider filing a restraining order. Looks like they're getting bold." It was the first time anyone official, had looked at the situation and seen me. After he left, I sat on the couch, staring out the window. My body still hurt from surgery, but my head was clear. Clearer than it had been in years. I didn't just want distance anymore. I wanted protection. I wanted a record. I wanted the truth in black and white. That week, I met with a lawyer. A real one. Not a friend doing me a favor. Her name was Candace, and she didn't flinch when I told her everything: the cruise, the break-in, the accusations, the theft. When I showed her the video of my father and brother ransacking my house, she didn't blink. "This is enough for a protective order," she said, "and a case for harassment and financial coercion." Her words settled over me like armor. Meanwhile, the family didn't let up. Some relatives fell quiet. Others jumped in with half-baked lectures. "Aunt Rhonda, it's still your mom and dad. Uncle Rob, money makes people do crazy things. Just let it go. Cousin Elaine, they're grieving the relationship. You could be more compassionate." I didn't respond. I was too busy filing. A week later, the paperwork was served. Restraining orders. Notices of formal legal action. A letter outlining financial restitution. It was all official. Delivered in crisp envelopes to their front porch. According to Candace, they opened them the morning they were scheduled to leave for another trip, a second cruise, supposedly already paid for. The timing was perfect. My phone blew up again. Jared's messages went from insults to pleading. My mother left a voicemail sobbing. My dad, as usual, stayed quiet, but I knew he was behind most of it. But something had shifted in me. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Because for once, I wasn't reacting. I was reclaiming. At first, I thought the mail was just late. Nothing unusual. Post-surgery fog, meds, long naps. It was easy to lose track of days. But then Greg dropped by with groceries and asked something that made my skin crawl. "You still using that weird old P.O. box?" "No," I said. "Everything comes straight here now." "Why?" He scratched the back of his neck. "Well, I saw your dad outside your mailbox last week. Just standing there like he was waiting for something." I froze. That night, I started checking every envelope. Turns out, a few things had gone missing. One of them was a medical bill I'd been expecting, marked past due even though I never got the original. Another was a replacement credit card I'd ordered but never received. Then came the kicker. I got a fraud alert from my bank. Someone had tried accessing my savings using an old security question I hadn't touched in years. Mother's maiden name. I changed every password, added two-factor authentication, locked my credit file with all 3 bureaus. I was halfway through updating my health provider profile when another alert popped up. Someone had submitted a power of attorney request under my name. I called the bank immediately. The rep was calm but firm. "Yes, Mr. Wallace. We flagged it as suspicious. It was initiated using outdated contact info from a legacy account. Do you recognize the name Charles Wallace? My father. I couldn't breathe for a second. It wasn't just a violation, it was a damn ambush. That was the final line. He hadn't just broken into my house or spent my money. He was now trying to legally impersonate me. To gain control, I made one phone call. Candace, my lawyer. I want to go nuclear, I said. You're ready? She asked. I'm past ready. She set me up with a specialist in financial exploitation, a no-nonsense woman named Robin who'd handled elder abuse cases, inheritance scams, and even one where a woman's daughter sold her car without permission. Robin didn't ask dumb questions. She just listened, took notes, and then said, we'll get him. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered everything. Account logs, video footage, copies of all unauthorized documents, even the bank's flagged request. Robin drafted a formal cease and desist order and submitted paperwork for an injunction. But this time, it wasn't just about stopping them. It was about drawing the line in ink, not pencil. And somewhere in all that chaos, something inside me cracked wide open, and not in a bad way. For the first time in years, the betrayal wasn't abstract. It wasn't a look, or a forgotten birthday, or a cold laugh at Christmas dinner. This was deliberate. This was criminal. And suddenly, I didn't care if they cried, begged, or threw around words like family. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was focused. I wasn't asking for fairness. I was demanding justice. And as I printed out the last page of the formal complaint, I looked at my reflection in the glass door, tired, healing, changed, and said out loud, let's see how they like being powerless for once. They got the paperwork the morning of their second cruise. I didn't plan it that way. Not exactly. But when Candace told me the service date would fall on a Tuesday, and I remembered Jared's Instagram post about setting sail to Santorini, well, I didn't ask her to move it either. They were likely packing when the envelope showed up on the doorstep. Restraining orders. A formal demand for financial restitution. Legal notification that their names were flagged for attempted identity fraud. They didn't even make it to the airport. By noon, my phone was a war zone. Mom, Adam, what is this? Legal action? You're really doing this to your own family. Jared, you psychopath. Over a few $1,000? You'll regret this. Dad, voicemail, flat voice. You've gone too far. Don't call us again. I didn't reply. I just kept saving everything. But that wasn't the end of it. Not even close. That night, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. For a moment, I thought it might be another lawyer or process server. Instead, it was the receptionist at Westbridge Medical. Hi, this is Rachel. I'm calling about your mother's recent intake paperwork. I sat up straighter. She listed you as her emergency contact and mentioned she was undergoing treatment for stage 2 lymphoma. We just needed to confirm. Wait, I cut in. What? Rachel paused. She didn't tell you? No, I said. She didn't. Okay. Her voice lowered. Well, I can't go into further detail due to privacy laws, but, off the record, we ran a verification. There's no cancer. No diagnosis. She never even had a referral. I'm sorry. I thanked her and hung up. I sat there in the dark, staring at the wall. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just tired. They had lied. Again. This time about cancer. Fake documents. Faked a diagnosis, just to guilt me out of following through. That night, I pulled out the folder where I'd started keeping printed copies of everything. I added a new page, fake medical claim. Slipped it behind the fraud attempt and the break-in footage. Evidence. That's all it was to me now. Just more evidence. But something else shifted, too. Because the old me, he would have broken down. Would have sat there asking, how could they do this? The new me just wrote it down and moved on. They didn't understand something fundamental. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't rage. This was a boundary. One they never thought I'd draw. One they were now slamming into, face first. I started keeping a digital log. Dates. Incidents. Lies. Audio clips. Screenshots. Even a few voicemail transcriptions. Because it was no longer about convincing anyone I was right. It was about building a wall between me and their chaos so strong it couldn't be kicked down with guilt, grief, or blood. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't second-guessing every decision. I was calm. I was grounded. I was watching the people who had exploited me scramble to understand why their old tricks weren't working anymore. The answer was simple. They weren't dealing with the same man anymore. They were dealing with the one who finally learned the power of saying no. It started with a job listing. A friend from the rig, one of the good ones, not the ones who disappeared after the accident, forwarded me an internal posting from our company. It was a training coordinator role. Office-based, lower pay, but consistent hours, full benefits, and no risk of plummeting off a platform into the ocean. Thought of you, he wrote. They want someone who's actually been out there. I stared at it for a long time. I'd never pictured myself behind a desk. But after everything, the fall, the betrayal, the painkillers, the cameras, the The idea of coming home every night, of building something stable, started to feel like a gift, not a step down. I applied the next morning. 2 interviews later, the offer came through. I took it. The first week was strange. No metal clanging. No salt air. Just fluorescent lights, HR memos, and emails with "per my last message" in the subject line. But I found my rhythm. Turns out, teaching greenhorns how to survive a rig is still work that matters. Every time I walked a trainee through proper harness protocol or explained why you never cut corners on inspections, I thought, maybe I'm helping someone avoid what happened to me. Outside of work, something even stranger happened. People, real people, started showing up. Marcy came by with frozen lasagna and a bottle of cheap wine. Greg and his wife invited me over for game night. The guy from the corner hardware store offered to help fix my busted porch step just because he had a free Saturday. No one asked for money. No one needed a small favor. They just showed up and stayed. That fall, I hosted a backyard barbecue. It wasn't big, just 10 or 12 folks. Neighbors, co-workers, Marcy, Greg, even Tasha, my cousin who accidentally spilled the truth about the cruise. We grilled burgers, lit some string lights, and passed around a bottle of bourbon someone had brought as a thank you for surviving gift. Halfway through the night, I stepped inside to grab more ice and found a handwritten card on the counter. It was from my 80-year-old neighbor, Mr. Russell. He hadn't made it to the party, but had left it in my mailbox earlier that day. It read, "You've got a good thing here now. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's just the folks who show up when you need them. You deserve that. Don't forget it." I read it twice. Then a third time. I slipped it into the drawer with the rest of my mail, but not before taking a picture and setting it as my phone's background. That night, as laughter drifted in from the backyard and the lights swayed in the breeze, I stood in the kitchen, barefoot and content, and realized something I never expected to feel again. Peace. Not because I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed the people who hurt me, but because I'd finally stopped trying to earn love from people who never knew how to give it. And in that space they left behind, something better had grown. Something that felt a whole lot like home. It was a regular Tuesday when I got the email from Jarrett. Subject line, "Just need a minute of your time, bro." I almost deleted it on sight, but something about the timing made me curious. I had just wrapped a safety module at work and was waiting for a trainee to return from a coffee run. So I opened it. It started with small talk. "Hope the new job is going well. Heard you're doing the training thing now. Cool, cool." Then it dropped. "Look, I know we've had our issues, but I wanted to be straight with you. Dad and I got caught up in something. A crypto deal. It seemed solid at the time. Guy we knew from a poker club vouched for it." I raised my eyebrows. "Poker club? Of course. Anyway, it tanked. Whole thing was a scam. We're out 14 grand. Mostly borrowed. I know it's a big ask, but if there's any way you could spot us for a while, just till we get back on our feet." The nerve. He ended with, "You're still family. Family helps each other in tough times. Right?" For a moment, I didn't feel anything. No rage. No smugness. Just stillness. The same people who emptied my account behind my back, who broke into my house and faked medical records, now they were trying to cash in on sympathy again. They lost $14,000 chasing easy money, thinking the universe would keep bailing them out like it always had. And now they were knocking, desperate and broke, hoping I'd play the role of the fool one last time. I clicked reply. Typed 4 words. "Karma's a lesson, huh?" Then I hit send. No salutation. No signature. Just silence. He never responded. I sat back in my chair, letting it all wash over me. The weight I'd carried for years, the guilt, the obligation, the nagging question of what if I'm wrong was finally gone. They had made their choices. They'd bet on manipulation, and now they were broke, bitter, and exposed. Not because I had torn them down, but because they had built their whole lives on the assumption that I'd never stop catching them. And now they'd hit the ground. Hard. That night, I sat on my porch with a blanket across my lap and a mug of strong coffee. The sky was clear, stars pinpricking the dark like quiet reminders that there was a whole universe beyond this little war I'd survived. My phone buzzed once. A spam call. I let it ring. Then I turned the phone off and closed my eyes. No more explanations. No more guilt. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was free. And that was worth more than every cent they'd ever tried to steal from me.